Last year, I saw with great interest that the Assam government put advertisements all over Delhi casting the Ahom general Lachit Borpukhan as a Hindu warrior who defeated, quote, Muslim invaders. This portrayal of India's northeast as fundamentally Hindu has continued into the recent past, especially in Manipur, where online campaigns have sought to paint Kukis as Christian terrorists. The history of the Ahoms is more complex than what Assam's ruling party claims. Understanding their rise to power brings up challenging questions about immigration, religion, and, quote, Indianness. As we'll see, through much of their history, the political culture of the Ahoms had much more in common with the neighboring Thais than with the ancient Sanskritized kingdom of Kamarupa, whose territories they assimilated. I'm Anirudh Kanisetti, historian author of Lords of the Deccan. Welcome to Thinking Medieval, where every week we tell you something new about our complex, innovative past. Always feel free to check out our research and citations below, and remember that we're all figuring out how to think about our messy, bloody, dazzling history. Kamarupa, the oldest state in the lower Brahmaputra valley, collapsed by the 13th century CE, creating a power vacuum. Raiding attempts by Turks were driven off by local lords. In this political void, the Thai Ahoms, an offshoot of the Maoshan peoples of Upper Burma, marched into the upper Brahmaputra valley. Meanwhile, two other tribal confederations came to rule in the erstwhile Kamarupa kingdom, the Khins, probably from Burma, and the Koches, hailing from the Bhutan foothills. Now, these groups illustrate the dynamics of late medieval northeast India, which is a crossroads akin to northwest India. Just like the northwest, the northeast was never static, witnessing constant migration, invasion, assimilation, and innovation. In one of the strangest parallels in history, the infamous Turkic raider Bakhtiyar Khalji, writing on his failed expeditions in Assam, remarked in the Awakat-e-Nasiri that the people who fought him all had Turk continents. Ethnically, culturally, and religiously, they were a world apart from what we imagine as Hindus today. In his 1988 PhD thesis, Ahom State Formation in Assam, an inquiry into the factors of polity formation in medieval northeast India, historian Romesh Buragohain reconstructed the rise of the Ahoms through Burangis. These historical chronicles were maintained by the Ahoms in line with Southeast Asian and possibly Chinese traditions. His study reveals that Sukapha, the Maoshan prince who led the Ahom peasant warriors as they settled the Upper Brahmaputra valley, was as ruthless as any of his Turkic contemporaries. In the Ahom Burangi and Purani Ahom Burangi, Sukapha is described as murdering opponents after luring them to feast, butchering Nagas, and even feeding their remains to their relatives. Of course, some of this must be political hyperbole. The Thai Ahoms also preserved their ties to their ancestral homeland, leading some scholars to describe them as part of mainland Southeast Asia. In the Ahom political system, an inquiry into the state formation process in medieval Assam, historian Amalendu Guha shows that the Ahoms staunchly adhered to their customs, speaking the Thai language and script well into the 17th century. They also ate beef and possessed an ideological justification for their supremacy. They believed that the Lord of Heaven had sent the Thai ruling clans to order the earth and cultivate the fields. So a crucial dynamic of Thai Ahom power was the expansion of wet rice agriculture in the upper Brahmaputra valley, for which they levied the labor of subjugated tribes. Armed Thai Ahoms formed the backbone of the military and held rights and duties towards the king. Ministers chosen from elite clans dominated the state. In general, they constituted a small ruling class over a large population of subjugated locals, though of course many Thai Ahoms, often married to locals, also cultivated the rice fields. This fostered Ahomization, causing numerous local groups, including the Nagas, Morans, and Barahis, to embrace Thai Ahom cultural and religious ideas. Non-Thai groups, such as the Khasis, who still practice shifting cultivation, were pejoratively referred to as Kha, or culturally inferior foreigners. By the late 15th century, the Ahoms confronted their last rivals in the upper Brahmaputra valley, the Chutias, a tribal confederation that had Sanskritized centuries ago through contact with ancient Kamarupa. With the emergence of the Ming dynasty in China, the Chutias had even acquired gunpowder through trade, according to historian Sun Laichen, in military technology transfers from Ming China and the emergence of northern mainland Southeast Asia. Defeating them not only gave the Ahoms gunpowder weapons, which they deployed in infantry formations, but also doubled their territories, and it brought a large number of Hindus under their rule. It was only then, in the early 16th century, that the Ahoms embraced Sanskritic court culture. They adopted the title of Swargadeva, meaning Lord of Heaven, and claimed descent from Indra, the Vedic Lord of Heaven. Both these moves translated the East Asian notion of divine heavens into a local context, endowing Ahom rule with legitimacy in the eyes of their Hindu subjects. With their ambitions growing, the Ahoms now turned to the lower Brahmaputra valley. The next century would see them confront South Asia's greatest superpower, the Mughals, and establish the territorial borders of what we now call Assam. Today, it's commonplace to view the Turkic invasions of northwest India as a rupture with the past, the ascent of a hostile foreign ruling class motivated by religious fanaticism. But the Ahoms offer a challenging counter-narrative from the northeast. While they didn't claim religious motives for their aggression, they shared numerous traits: culinary preferences, historical and ideological traditions, political culture, use of violence, and a distinct self-perception with their Turkic counterparts. The point of this comparison isn't to denigrate these fascinating peoples, but rather to question our preconceived notions of them. Are medieval Turks aliens simply because they attacked elite temples, even though popular Indian religion assimilated Islamicate ideas? Well, in this video here. Conversely, are medieval Ahoms laudable heroes despite the use of violence and coercion against indigenous populations? Ultimately, of course, these debates are pointless. History was made by complicated individuals with no obligation to conform to our biases. It's silly to reduce medieval politics to categories of indigenous and foreign when nation-states hadn't even emerged, or to expect anything less than ruthlessness from armed men with ideological convictions and no accountability. To turn these ruling minorities into representatives of entire cultures is ridiculous. To label one group as alien while venerating another as heroic does injustice to both because it doesn't allow them to be complex human beings. Instead, this approach continues to oversimplify our messy history into binaries that only serve opportunistic politicians. If you have questions or comments, we'd love to hear that. Follow us everywhere on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Anirudh and at Connected Histories, and on Twitter at Kanisetti. We'll see you next week.